Well, with the Iowa caucuses less than 2 weeks away, there is one candidate who could make history. Texas Congressman Ron Paul placing second in the latest Rasmussen poll of Iowa caucus goers, 20% of those saying that they would prefer him to win. But now the editor of the National Review, prominent conservative publication, writing a column saying that if Paul does win in Iowa, the Hawkeye state should never be taken seriously again when it comes to their caucuses. Rich Lowry is the editor of the National Review. He's a Fox News contributor. Never be taken seriously again, Rich?
Never be taken as seriously. Yeah, look, Ron Paul, Rick, he has a lot of appealing aspects to him. He's a very sincere guy. He's very knowledgeable. He has kind of a cranky charm in these debates. But he's also dabbled in trutherism over 9/11. He's talked about there being a CIA coup in this country. And then there are these newsletters, which are finally getting the prominence they deserve and account for some of that prickliness that James Rosen was referring to, where he had someone writing for him in his name, first person, under his name, the Ron Paul newsletter, things that were rancid and bigoted. And now Ron Paul wants us to believe he didn't know anything about these newsletters, even though he was profiting from them, and he has no idea who disgraced him in such a way by writing them. And I think if any other presidential candidate were saying that, he would be disqualified in a minute. But there are different rules for Ron Paul.
Rich,
apparently.
You know that there are folks out there in America's heartland who are saying, Lowry, you're an East Coast conservative elite with your fancy vocabulary. You don't know what people really want. You don't know what they're clamoring for. They want somebody who's going to rock the boat. And that's what they see Ron Paul as standing for.
Yeah, look, that's part of his appeal. And I admire the way he's gone out there, he's put his flag on the ground, and he hasn't moved his flag at all, and he's tried to gather people around it. And the party has moved his way, Rick, there's no doubt, on a whole host of things, on the Federal Reserve, on the size of government generally, on crony capitalism, and even on foreign intervention overseas. But I think the shame of Ron Paul is that he's taken what is a admirable and important point of view in our politics, libertarianism, and because he hasn't had high enough standards for the kind of people he's associated with, he's sullied it with these bigots who wrote his newsletter and with these conspiracy kooks that he too often gives credence to.
Your magazine has been criticized by some for not fully endorsing anyone just yet from the GOP field. You want to take care of that right now for us?
Yeah.
Come on.
No.
No?
No. In an answer, no. Unfortunately, Rick, I think it's a very weak field. I think it's much easier to say negative things about this field than positive things. And I think there's still a possibility that if this stays chaotic, let's say Ron Paul wins Iowa, let's say Mitt Romney loses New Hampshire, you could see a real serious draft effort for someone else. And even if it's not chaotic, and let's say Mitt Romney is the front runner throughout, I think there's going to be a very serious effort to try to keep him below 50% in the delegate count so you could go into the convention with at least the possibility of getting a new candidate.
Rich Lowry is the editor of the National Review. Good to see you, Rich. Thanks for